When you're traveling on assignment, any assignment, days that start slow usually don't stay that way for long.
Significant stimulus packages.
Wednesday began in the press filing center.
Prime Minister Brown and I had
watching the president's news conference with Prime Minister Gordon Brown on television. With the president's busy schedule of meetings and visits, like the news conference restricted to a small number of reporters, it appeared we'd spend most of the day covering events by watching them on TV. Then, something we saw on TV changed everything. Protesters, expected to target Thursday's G20 meeting, decided to start early, and they were starting to swarm around the Bank of England, just a few miles from the filing center. Sensing the opportunity to actually cover some news rather than just watch it on TV, my colleague Mark Smith and I made a break for it. We headed underground to London's famed Tube, one of the most efficient mass transit systems in the world. The protest had already shut down the tube stop closest to the bank, but we could still get close. We got off a few blocks away at St. Paul's Station and started walking towards the edge of the protest.
Helicopter overhead, signs waving, except that it being London a few blocks away, everything's normal. This is the financial district. People are going about making money as best they can.
Nevertheless, there's something about walking to the scene of a major news story that really gets the blood pumping. As we got closer, we could see that police were lining up in formation, a sure sign that a clash with protesters might be in the cards.
It's getting too dangerous to let people push.
I gave Mark the small flip camera I'd been using and turned to capture the potentially volatile scene with my bigger high-definition camera. In my experience, police in situations like these tend to get a little jumpy and very bossy. But then, the oddest thing happened, something I never could have predicted.
Ladies and gentlemen, please keep moving back as far as you can. Please move back as far as you can, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Please? Ladies and gentlemen? These police, they're actually polite.
Thanks very much.
I was shocked. Mark, who once lived and worked in London, said it's par for the course. It certainly brought the tension level down a bit, and Mark and I quickly got to work shooting what we call a stand-up for his video story on the protests and the rest of the day's news. Mark headed back to the file, but I couldn't resist sticking around to see what would happen next. Because I was now working alone, I had to be very aware of my surroundings. But as I pushed closer to the bank, the mood among the crowd was more festive than furious. Soon I was able to make it all the way to the front of the bank. Seeing that the protest was mostly under control, I decided to make my way back to the underground. But I was in the heart of the demonstration, and not one, but two walls of police now blocked my exit route. They didn't look quite as friendly as the ones I'd encountered earlier.
I was able to identify myself as a journalist, and the police let me through their barricade. I'm now walking back to the underground. Certainly not what I expected to cover today, but probably the thing that will stick with me the most was just how polite the police were, even as they were trying to deal with a potentially dangerous situation.
But the police are taking over.
Later in the day, the protest turned more violent. Right where I was standing earlier, demonstrators set fires and scrapped with police. Part of me wished I was there. Part of me knew it could be dangerous, especially working alone. In the end, it was the kind of experience I never expected, and one I couldn't have predicted I'd have while covering the President of the United States. Jason Bronis, The Associated Press, London.